show. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 tonight. It's going to be how will Africa adjust to life on Hothouse Earth? This came with a link as well. I think it's taking us to Twitter. No, it's taking us to YouTube. We'll watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
Temperatures have been soaring past 47 degrees in many parts of Niger for days. Granaries are bare and cattle are dying in Agadez. Livestock breeders are trying to sell off their herds to avoid further losses.
We don't comprehend this heat. It hurts people and animals. Sometimes we bring cows to sell them at the market, and because of the heat, the livestock can't stand up. They get sick from the heat.
The extreme heat is slowing down business in the city.
The heat is very high. I implore God to protect us. This year's heat has made us suffer. There are many power cuts. The heat this year is terrible.
The UN estimates almost 20% of Niger's population will need humanitarian assistance to get through the year. The government's released just over $450 million to support farmers hit by poor harvests. But it's only the beginning of what's known as the lean season.
In
the Agadez area, which is a desert zone, the temperature rise is exceptional, often reaching 45 degrees. This is unbearable for biodiversity in general, like the plants and animals.
For now, there's little they can do, with temperatures expected to remain high over the next 2 months. Barbara Angopa, Al Jazeera.
You know, for a second there, when that dark-skinned brother came, I thought he was a Bahamian talking for a quick second. That's a short video. I'm going to play it one more time. I see some of y'all are responding to climate change in the chat. I'll read those comments live in a second. Let me just play this 1.5-minute video one more time.
Temperatures have been soaring past 47 degrees in many parts of Niger for days. Granaries are bare and cattle are dying in Agadez. Livestock breeders are trying to sell off their herds to avoid further losses.
We don't comprehend this heat. It hurts people and animals. Sometimes we bring cows to sell them at the market, and because of the heat, the livestock can't stand up. They get sick from the heat.
The extreme heat is slowing down business in the city.
The heat is very high. I implore God to protect us. This year's heat has made us suffer. There are many power cuts. The heat this year is terrible.
The UN estimates almost 20% of Niger's population will need humanitarian assistance to get through the year. The government's released just over $450 million to support farmers hit by poor harvests. But it's only the beginning of what's known as the lean season.
In the Agadez area, which is a desert zone, the temperature rise is exceptional, often reaching 45 degrees. This is unbearable for biodiversity in general, like the plants and animals.
For now, there's little they can do, with temperatures expected to remain high over the next 2 months. Barbara Angopa, Al Jazeera.
Buana, how hot was it in Nassau today?
Oh, the temperature was on hell. You know, the temperature usually is on hell, but it's extra hell today because they had a heat wave, a recent heat wave, so it was bad, man. Cool. I sympathize with the Africans because at least, you know, in these countries, these parts of the world, you have your little AC and you have your little ice from a refrigerator where you can cool the body down. But in these places, man, where you don't have these kind of access, I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right, thanks, Buana. Let's have from Real Black Gentleman on this.
Well, my thing is like I don't do the whole climate thing. I actually think it's like a hostile propaganda against Africa. Look, it's been hot. It gets hot in the summer. There's these things called seasons. You know what I'm saying? Because the axis of the Earth and all that. So every 100, every 360 days, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna, look, it gets hot. I get that. I think that the broadcast in and of itself, the reporter, I I'm always skeptical about a lot of things. The way the person, the dude was like, these things challenge biodiversity. Look, again, it gets hot, you know, it does, but life finds ways to, you know, cope. It stays in shadows, you know what I'm saying? Like livestock, you know what I'm saying, is not necessarily, you know what I'm saying, the most, you know what I'm saying, suited thing for like hot temperatures, because like it's just not that, you know what I'm saying, but like, you know, life, you know what I'm saying, them, you know what I'm saying, what's out there is going to be what's out there. Look, I don't think that, you know, summertime, every time it gets hot, they're going to talk about the climate. Every summer they're going to do this, and I think, you know what I'm saying, it's not cool. I think that, you know what I'm saying, we know that it gets hot. You know that you have to, like, you know, be prepared for summer. You have to be prepared for winter. You have to be prepared for the rain and for the wind. You have to be prepared for seasonal, you know, changes. You know, Buana made a point, you know what I'm saying, in Africa, you know what I'm saying, various parts, you know what I'm saying, you know, the electricity ain't up, you know what I'm saying. It's getting there though. There are just more people. I mean, more structures, you know what I'm saying? Buildings like big old, you know, it's true that big old concrete cities do capture heat. And I mean, a lot of people are tending to move to cities, and it does, you know, things are real, you know, things are, they do correlate to actually what's going on. But like, I just don't, I'm not convinced by it. In fact, I think it's just a way, I will say it again, you know, don't use fossil fuels. Okay, it's hot because of the climate, because people's burning, you know what I'm saying, the coal and the oil. So don't, you know, generate no electricity, you know, in a really, you know, useful way to, like, you know, get AC, you know, just, you know, buy some Chinese little paper fans. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not with it. You know, plant some trees to get some shade. You know, and that's true, a good shade, but the problem is it takes 50 years to get enough fucking leaves for the tree to make a difference. So you see where I'm getting at? You can't play with climate change. I rebuke that. And so, like, that's just me. I'm gonna pass the mic.
So just to be clear, RBG, you don't believe in climate? You don't believe in such a thing as climate change? Absolutely not. No. I can go at length as to why I don't. I understand that, like, you're not going to, I'm not convinced with the whole, like, carbon emissions into the atmosphere, greenhouse. I understand science. I understand the earth in space, in, you know, heat and convection, how heat radiates away from the planet. It's not, I mean, there is, you know, water vapor does more, you know, for heat, you know, clouds, and I see it. I don't trust the UN. You know, the part where the lady was talking about the UN. You know, I'm not with it, because it'll be like a Hegelian situation where it's like the same people who caused the problem. There'll be a problem, a reaction from the people. You'll be a fake problem, the reaction from the people, and then a fake solution, which would be some kind of like battery operated kind of situation. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? The crops, look, this is bad management to begin with, because people, you know what I'm saying, the people in power is greedy, and they don't, you know what I'm saying, they're not actually thinking about, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, what's the plus one on, like, you know, making sure that, like, you know, the whole civilization does have, like, you know, good water, you know what I'm saying, good electricity, you know what I'm saying, to combat the natural, I mean, it's always hot in Nigeria. It's in the desert. So it's like, this is one of those things where it's like, yo, it's like, it's hot, but okay, it gets hotter. Everyone knows this. Look, I don't want to ramble along. You don't want to sit here and have too many, you know, black people in the middle of the desert. It's climate change. It's getting really hot. I don't have time for it. I think, you know what I'm saying, look, be careful. Don't buy all these climate change, you know, theories come from white people. Period. Come on now. All these scientists in these university studies, not an African in the mix. Let's just keep it a whole one with this. I do not believe in climate change. Oh, I'm done. Appreciate it. Let's have from Oni next on this.
Yeah, so, you know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, respect to RBG. I don't agree with what he said, but I respect to him. But that's the reason why I even bring up that I don't agree is because, you know, it goes back to that conversation earlier. You know, when we talk about, well, we don't agree with somebody, what are the consequences? You know what I'm saying? And it's not like I would, like, again, I'm not like, I think that it's not our country, so we're not really having it. But at the same time, like, what if, I think the question comes before about what happens if you don't agree with somebody over something like this, right? And then somebody does something like, let's say, I don't agree with RBG, so RBG, does me in on it, or something like that, or the faction in power says, well, you believe in climate change, ergo you're gone, right? So it does become a slippery slope. Now maybe that's a straw man too. But I did want to engage on this article I put up 10 years ago about this climate change thing. And so this is a quote from I guess Thomas Schelling. Well, now I'm gonna do the thing that we like to do and like quote a white boy, but this is a white boy talking about climate change. He says climate change would have greater impact in underdeveloped countries. Agriculture provides the livelihood of 30% or more of the populations in much of the developing world. While there is no strong presumption that the climates prevailing in different regions 50 or 100 years from now will be less conducive to food production, those people are vulnerable in a way that Americans and West Europeans are not, nor can the impact of the health be dismissed. Parasitic and other vector-borne diseases affecting hundreds of millions of people are sensitive to climate. And sorry, I think that wasn't the right quote. The right quote I was looking for was, this one, where it says, comes from a heading titled, "Why Should Developed Countries Do Anything?" And one of the quotes is, why might developed countries care enough about climate to do anything about it? The answer depends on how much people in developed countries care about people in developing countries and how expensive it is to do something worthwhile. Abatement, so on and so forth. For some reason, I thought I had the quote right, but long story short, the idea was that many people in the West, like the climate denial people, they know that that climate change is real. They know that. But what they also know is that it disproportionately affects the global South. Okay? And because it disproportionately affects the global South, the people of the global North say, we don't care. And they push it onto our people so that our people will believe, yeah, it's not important. Right? Meanwhile, people in Africa could tell you, hey, look, yeah, I've like you have satellite proof of shrinking rivers or shrinking lakes. You have satellite proof of shrinking lakes. You have satellite proof of expanding deserts, and so on and so forth. I kind of asked Koku, when was this video released that we're watching? Because a part of it doesn't make much sense, in the sense that right now is quote unquote winter in Africa, right? So I don't know if this is a recent video or not. When was this video? 2 weeks ago, yeah. So technically it's winter in Africa, so it should be cold. Well, I guess because they're in the equator, maybe not, but like usually, generally speaking, in the southern hemisphere experiences winter while we experience summer. But I guess they're probably, well, maybe they're not in the southern hemisphere. Maybe they are in the equator. But what I'm saying though is that, yeah, everybody knows that no, not everybody knows. The quote unquote powers that be in the Western world know that climate change is a thing. Okay, so real black Genesis Nigeria is in the north. Yeah. Yeah, probably, because I think I vaguely remember that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that everybody knows that climate change is happening, but it comes to, well, who's going to be most impacted? The thing that we don't keep in mind is this: the governments in America right now, they said like about 25% of the Senate or the Congress is over 70 years old. So a lot of the predictions in 20 like I said, in 2010 and stuff, a lot of predictions were like, hey, in 50 years shit's gonna be really bad. Now, if you're in your 60s, what you care about what's going on in 60 years, in 50 years? You know? And I don't think we take that into account that, one, the people in the West are like, who cares what happens? Like, we're in the North, who cares what happens in the South? And then also, the people in power are like, we're 70 damn years old. We're 70 years old. We're 80 years old. We're having, we're in the middle of, like, we're in wheelchairs. We're having strokes. Don't tell me what's going to happen. Don't tell me there's going to be less rain in 2050. Now I do agree that, biodiversity may adapt, but I also recognize that a lot of animals are going extinct. That adapting is not a guarantee. It's a possibility. But all I can say is that, definitely I think, when I see these kind of stories, I just say, look, man, we were trying to tell you 50 years ago. We were trying to tell you this 30 years ago, 20 years ago. We were ignored. And people are going to suffer. People are going to die. And what can you say about it? What can you do about it? Hopefully it's not too bad. Or hopefully some of us, Africans survive. But these white people are ruining the planet. And unfortunately for us, this is the only planet that we know. This is the only planet that we can live on. And it's going a waste for humankind. And yet we're, we're just falling for the okie doke for some reason. That's all I'm saying.
Appreciate that. Only one. Did you want to add something here?
No, I when people like Oni, who is a thinker, when people like him say that he wanted to go to the continent, and he seemed to be a little bit environmentally savvy. I think that he could possibly bring some solutions to the issues, because he's lived in the so-called Western world, and he's been able to garner a lot of information. So maybe he could bring that know-how back to Africa and find possible ways and means that make it better for people living on the continent itself. But in terms of I'm not an environmentalist, okay, but I would say that it seems that in the Caribbean, in the summers, it's gotten a whole lot hotter. It's I understand hell temperatures, but it seems like hell 2.0 right now. And when it rains, there's a lot of flooding that occurs that never used to occur. And now Nassau itself as a country, as a state, is extremely flat. It's flat, no mountains, anything like that. So because of that, the flooding is gonna happen, but it wasn't as severe as you see it right now. So obviously, to me, based on observation, it seems like the environment and the landscape is changing. Do I attribute that to climate change? I don't know. I don't have any sophistication in it. Maybe RBG or Oni could tell me, but seeing it myself and experiencing summers in my country in the past and how it is now, I think that I could observe many changes in the atmosphere just in living, and I just feel like it's much harder. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. I can attribute it to that. So I really don't know. I feel the physical effects of it, and it feels to me like it's getting harder, and the flooding that occurs just even with light rain. It seems like it's very, very strange to me. So something is happening, but I don't want to, speak on the science of it. Like I said, I don't have the sophistication, environmentalist sophistication, but just based on observation alone, I just think that something is actually happening.
Oh, sorry about that one. I didn't know you was done there. Bueno, went back in the 90s, I read in the Tribune that the Bahamas might sink in 2050. That was back in the 90s, right? So when you talk about what seems to be the rising water level, That sounds kind of troubling. You know, that sounds kind of troubling. With that said, Kyle, what say you?
So yeah, we're all gonna die. Um, we're all, and I say this because it's very troubling, even in this late day, at this late stage, that people are still in denial about this. It's very disturbing. So, um, I posted this topic. I kind of want to bring attention because it is hot. The Gulf of Mexico is at 98 degrees in the surface temperature. So that temperature, it kills the coral off. So the coral is dying. Uh, we see all over the world, we got whales bleaching themselves on the ocean because who knows. So one thing they didn't talk about in the video, I think is very important, is something called wet bulb temperature. And to make a long story short, wet bulb temperature is a temperature at which your body can no longer cool itself by sweating. It's a combination of heat and humidity. So, the human body regulates temperature by sweating. When we sweat, it evaporates, cools us off. But what happens when the humidity is such to where evaporation is no longer possible? Where you have a combination of heat plus the humidity, that's going to kill millions of people who don't have air conditioning. We've already seen hospitalizations rise in states like Texas and Arizona and Phoenix. People are being hospitalized. They've gone for a month with over 110-degree temperatures. This is not normal. This is not something that, oh, it's just summertime. No, 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 no. It's not just summertime. We're in the fuck around and find out stages. And the worst part about it, this is going to be the coolest summer of your lifetime because it only gets worse from here. What happens when crops fail? You're going to have mass starvation. What happens when you don't have fresh water? You're going to have water wars, which is already starting to happen because people are going to start fighting over fresh water because it's not going to be available. And then on top of that, you have these corporations, these politicians who are steadily drilling for more fossil fuels, who are approving more contracts. And it's killing people. What can be done in this? Well, I don't know what can be done. I mean, I know what can be done. What has to be done? We have to be. It's Toussaint. It's time. It's Jean-Jacques Dessalines time. It's time to get the guillotine out because if we don't, then we're not going to have a viable civilization for humanity. I think life will survive, but it won't survive the way we know it. It's going to be a lot harder for our children and our grandchildren to find food and find shelter to exist on this planet. I know there was a comment about it being wintertime in the southern hemisphere, but at this point, there's almost no sea ice in the Antarctic. The sea ice levels are the lowest they've ever been. What happens when the sea ice melts in the Arctic, in the Antarctic? Well, you're talking about the Bahamas sinking now. That's going to make it even worse. This is a real problem that we really have to understand. The people in charge don't care about fixing it. They're building bunkers. They're talking about going to fucking Mars and shit. They're going to abandon this planet and leave the rest of us here to die. So this is a real issue. This is not something that people are making up. There's too much information at this point. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Don't Look Up. And it's it was supposed to be a comedy, but it seems like it's a documentary at this point. So I'll leave it there. Thanks, Coco.
I appreciate that. In the chat, Juana said thanks for making him more paranoid.
I apologize. I wasn't mean to sound like a prophet of doom, but damn.
Trigger Happy 262 says, I would also like to say there are many who have appraisals for the white man and his idea of progress and modernity. But look at how much it costs for them to be quote unquote modern. This is what you avoid. Earlier he said, we need to get these technologies cracking. Since white people are destroying the planet, you'll have to compensate. Ms. Vidya says, interesting, science is suggesting that we stop producing meat for consumption to reduce climate change, thus the push for vegan and other protein consumption, like bugs, that is for general populations. Real Black Gentleman in the chat says these white folks ain't giving up oil one way or another to power their air conditioning. And I don't trust these white folks ever recorded statistics. Does anyone else want to add any last thoughts here before we end at 11?
Yeah, I do. Look, this is my thing. It's not about, I get meteorology. I get climate. I understand the word climate. The word climate in and of itself is related to incline. It infers to an angle of things. Look, I when I say what I'm saying, I understand that it is hot out there for our people. It's hot everywhere, right? It's hot. You know what I'm saying? It's July 29th, you know what I'm saying, of their calendar, right? It's hot. The sun is very high up in the sky. I get that. I get it. There are many more people on this earth. And what winds up happening is that these white folks got cameras. And these white folks can go up into a whole bunch of people's business at any given time, and they can sort out what they're telling you. Look, man, don't believe the hype. Don't do it. These white folks is coming regular direct. I don't care about the heat. We Africans, it's hot. I sincerely say that. Don't let look the coral. I'm sorry. I'm not one to sit here and say that. But I believe that, there's all kinds of extinctions and shit, you know what I'm saying, that have nothing to do with people. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of animals in Australia that don't exist. I get it. All kinds of animals in Africa that don't exist. Madagascar. All kinds of animals and stuff that don't exist no more. I get that. For me, talking about what we talking about in this world, what just happened a couple days ago, the heat, I get it. Look, I swear, the attention span, you know what I'm saying? We talk about our history in this land, and in these United States. It's for me speaking in these United States. My peoples ain't been here but a couple hundred years. Lord knows we can't talk about what didn't happen 1,000 years ago in the United States for anyone to talk about the worst thing ever.
Man, we all gonna die, man. We all gonna die. We all gonna die.
About these people in this land. That's all I got to say. Don't believe these UN. How many Africans is on these computers computing what they talking about? I don't want to go much further, but I just have to say my piece, man. Think about it.
Man, we all gonna die, man. And with that mentality, man, we all gonna die. I'm sorry. There's too much evidence. We all gonna die, man.
You see why I said if you go take out some people.
Hey man,
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying, like, when we talk about once, because I'm like, wait a second, man. You know damn well, like, the planet is going out. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know. Like I said, maybe RBG's gonna take us out, which would be all right. But like, it is what it is.
I hope RBG is right, and I hope Carl is completely wrong, because if he is not wrong, you all brothers in America, you all need to make some room, because we will be a bunch of behemoths will be on bananas.
Oh, America's not exempt. America is not. I mean, after that, Texas is already feeling the heat. The southern states are already feeling this heat. America is not exempt from this. You might be better off near the Great Lakes, but if I was going to the Great Lakes, I'm going to the Great Lakes of Africa. I might as well go to Lake Tanganyika. I'm going home.
Oh man.
I'm coming home, bruh.
Oh man, we are done. We are completely washed. So
like for example, we're talking about the rate of animals extinction is a normal thing. Extinction happens, okay? But when you have an extinction level, 100 times higher than normal, when they're predicting that within 300 years, most of the mammal species on Earth will be extinct. The largest animal on Earth will be the cow, because most of the megafauna that exists will be going extinct. This is something that is alarming. This is really alarming. When most people, especially like in the East, get their main source of protein from the ocean, and when you have fish populations collapsing, when you have more plastic in the ocean than you have fish. This is something that cannot continue. This is not normal. This is not, oh, it's hot, it's the summertime. No, I'm sorry. It's never been 100 degrees in the Gulf of Mexico. That's never happened before. It feels like a hot tub when you go in. I've been to the ocean last week. It was a hot tub. And then when you get out of the ocean, there's no breeze. It's just hot. So you're hot and wet, and that's it. This is not a normal thing. What happens when the next hurricane rolls off the coast of Africa? What happens when those storms hit that hot water? It's going to create mega storms. You can kiss
That's
the
real talk.
Bahamas goodbye.
That's real talk.
You can
Oh
kiss
goodness.
Miami
Oh
goodbye.
goodness. I didn't want to think about it, man. You getting me fired
Bruh,
up.
I'm
But it's
sorry.
true. No, it's true.
It's
It's true.
true.
It's true.
And,
It's
and
no
one,
lie.
you've lived through a hurricane. I've lived through a hurricane. That shit is no joke. That is no joke. I remember Hurricane Andrew when I was a kid, and everything was flattened. So, what happens when these storms come? What happens when you know what? You may not give a fuck about the polar bears, okay? Who cares if the sea ice in the Arctic melts? Who gives a fuck about polar bears? There's bears everywhere, right? But what happens when that sea ice melts and some shit in that permafrost comes to life that hasn't been seen in the last 100,000 years? You know, I've seen Alien, I've seen The Thing. We've seen these movies, and these science fiction. But what happens when diseases that haven't been around forever come back to life? What happens when you have the Gulf Stream collapses, the Gulf Stream that brings that warm water from the coast of Africa to North America? What happens when that collapses? When places like California can't grow food? This is not no game. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Side note, I don't know if you guys saw this story. They revived a worm that was caught in the ice there for 46,000 years. Revived the worm, and the worm immediately produced offspring. Did anyone else catch that story?
Yeah, I saw that. I seen that movie. I saw that movie.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. In the chat, I saw something that caught my eye. Was from Afro Native World. He said, on the real though, these small Caribbean islands need to look at relocating to continental countries. See what happened to Montserrat. And for those who don't remember, Montserrat is where the Calypsonian arrow was from. They had a volcano erupt there, and they had to evacuate the island. I think most of those people went to France and Britain or something like that, but they had to evacuate the island. That was back in the 90s, I would say, early 90s. So yeah, that's a thought. What do you guys think about what Afro Native World just said? Should we attach ourselves to the continent? I guess those of us in the Caribbean.
That's an absolute fact. That's an absolute fact, because it would seem like, see, we believe that if the Caribbean had a horrible hurricane, I've lived through horrible hurricanes before, where the water completely decimates the Caribbean. We believe that our sanctuary is North America, right? And that is a falsehood, because the Americans could be like, no, where y'all think y'all going? You know, we gonna treat y'all like the Haitians. Y'all gotta have some money to come here. You know, y'all ain't coming here. So where you gonna go? Where you gonna go? And if the African countries still playing peekaboo, considering whether if we are Africans or not, where do we go? Are we gonna go sink into the Atlantic Ocean? And what's gonna happen to these people? What's gonna happen? And I think that we should take precautionary measures now, because what Carl's saying, unfortunately, I don't like to hear it. I try to put my hand on my ears and say it ain't so, and I don't want to believe it's true. But after having lived through like real serious hurricanes where the whole island is completely decimated and shut down, you know what I mean? I don't know if we can handle 2, 3, 4 these kinds of experiences. So where are these people gonna go? Where are they gonna go? Unless they have developed relationships with other kinds of people. What are you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you could do when Donald Trump said, we don't want y'all niggers here? What you gonna do? You know, so I think that the planning needs to be in a developmental stages now. I think that needs to happen now. Maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm speaking with a collective or drunk mind, but I believe that needs to happen immediately.
I don't think you're being paranoid. I think you're taking a analysis of the situation. You've experienced this before, so no, I don't think you're being paranoid at all. I think that as far as coming to the U.S., the governor of Texas has literally told his the border patrol to push children back into the Rio Grande and not give migrants water. So the United States is not no sanctuary for y'all. I'm sorry. I apologize. And what's even worse is really going to happen is that as these climate catastrophes become more and more frequent, you're going to see governments respond in a very hostile way. You're going to see outright. I mean, we already, black people have already been dealing with racism and fascism for forever, but it's going to get really bad. I shudder to think where this is going to lead.
Anybody else want to respond to what Afro Native World said?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should go to Africa. But I mean, everybody won't. And like we said, like the thing that we have to come to terms with, that's why I say I come to terms with the fact that humans are animals. Okay, we're animals. And things happen to animals. Unfortunately, things happen where the species that spread across the planet, we originated somewhere, but we spread across the planet and we try our hand at different lands, and sometimes that backfires. It's a little bleak, but that's what it is. I think that you, as an individual among these animals, have to say to yourself, what can you do? Because like part of me is even thinking to myself after this conversation, particularly, I'm like, look, I'm about to go to Africa, where it's hotter than it might be in the West, and maybe like Carl said, we're gonna be fighting over water, and I don't know how that's gonna pan out for me, or let's say my family as I build one, right? But we have to come to terms with, we played with fire and got burned. The good news, at least, was that during this quote unquote pandemic, there was like a shortage of pollution, and there was some like kind of quasi reversal, if you will. Not complete reversal, obviously, because we went right back to business, but it kind of tells you that, as the human race destroys itself, and that there's the accompanying cost with our self-destruction. But as the human race destroys ourselves, it's possible that, in the long term, there's going to be some survivors who, for whatever reason, whether they are in the right location at the right time, or just because the destruction of certain industries allows for the earth to flourish again. Like there's a possibility of a positivity, okay, but at the same time, we just have to be like I say, look, honestly, I would just go to Africa because of the greater political threat. Because at the end of the day, the problem is, I mean, I'm not going to be Carl and say it's capitalism or whatever, but it is the imperialists, who Carl might say are the capitalists or whatever, but it is the fact that we did overplay industrialism, and I respect real black gentlemen in the sense of we recognize that industrializing is something that we as African people need to do. We need to be bigger and better at our own manufacturing, right? We need to. So there is but that's the thing about the world. There's a cost for every joy you have on this planet. Every joy you want, there is a cost. And right now we're playing we're into that cost, hopefully, I'm not saying real black gentleman is right, but hopefully, the science is not, let's just say hopefully humans make it through this. You know what I mean? But
you know what? I'm gonna say this but you know what? I don't want to make this a human thing. This is not humans. This is white people. Let's keep it a buck. Africans, native, indigenous people have coexisted with the environment for hundreds of thousands of years. This is a result of white people and their death urge in their culture. These people are insane. They will just, even with all this shit going on, they're still talking about going to war with China. They still want nuclear war. This is not on us. This is on these
Yeah,
goddamn
fucking
crackers.
Americans, man. That's what I'm saying. Americans are pieces of like shit. Like they're like literally trying to push China. They're literally trying to push Russia. Like these Americans are fucking psychopaths. No disrespect, but like that's why I can't
None
even.
taken.
I can't even like. I'll tell y'all this, man. Real talk. I'll tell you this. Even before I understood African consciousness, I kind of understood there was something fucking wrong with America. You know, I didn't know, before I even knew Europe was that bad, I knew that America was bad. You know what I'm saying? And that's just something like I don't get the American flag stuff. I don't get none of that stuff. My fault. I gotta stop. Hold on. Good man saying only.
No. Ms. Vita was asking who was currently speaking. So I said,
I thought you were like, Odie, come on, it's after 11. I was like, oh, let me shut up.
That too. That's right. All right, Oni, you done?
Well, yeah, I mean, you said it's after 11. I'm not trying to.
Trigger Happy 262 in the chat says, very big point. Also, to be more annoying, our African spiritual systems were highly ecological in ritual, practice, and in principle. So I think his very big point is to Carl Hezekiah. He says, we had whole rivers clear as a mirror, then Christianity came. All right, guys. It's 11. A little after 11. We're going to shut it down now. I want to thank my panel who was here tonight. Thanks to Carl, Real Black Gentleman, Pro Black Perspective, Oni, and Buana. Before we go, let's see if anyone has anything to shout out. Carl, you have anything you want to shout out this week?
No shout out. I enjoyed the conversation. I'm going to start being on a little bit earlier. I work on Saturdays, but my schedule changes, so I'm going to be free. So I'll be with you guys for the whole podcast coming soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Love it. Thank you. Real Black Gentleman, want to shout anything out this week?
No, I don't want to hold anyone up. I did a good talk. You know what I'm saying? Interesting discussion. Everyone have a great night. I'll see you around.
Yeah, thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. Oni, want to shout anything out?
Nah, also, hopefully RBG knows I'm just playing with him. But yeah, I do think that the climate change thing is a really serious thing that, really does threaten, like our existence as a people, and like even not just our existence as a people, but I really care because I know that Africa is going to suffer for it. Now, obviously, the America and them are going to suffer too, but it's like chickens coming home to roost for them. I think that we as a people have not done Pan-Africanism as we should have. And because of that, this white boy could just do whatever he wants, run amok, and we're gonna pay, like the earth is gonna make us pay the consequence. But it is what it is, hopefully, we all hopefully, 2050 comes and we're like, hey, look, we're not underwater. But and I mean, I don't know, because I heard those projections about even New York City, being underwater and all that kind of stuff. And I think we have to just remember that, white people are not that great at science anyway. So whether they can do a mathematical model to predict so on and so forth, I don't think that they're that good. But at the same time, whether there is going to be a weather difference, absolutely, absolutely. And I get the whole idea of maybe it's not pollution, maybe it's just what the earth does, because the earth does do these kind of things. And even if that's the case, it's like we're still going to suffer as a species. And it kind of just sucks, but we just have to live like we just have to live with it and hopefully make the best of our lives as we can, and you know, have our families the way we need to have our families. But other than that, yeah, I'm gonna do a podcast tomorrow. That's it.
All right,
Man, the
thanks,
planet is being killed, and people who are killing it have names and addresses. I'd say go to niggas' houses, man. I'm sorry. All right, I'm done.
Buana, thanks for that. Buana, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, shout out to all the brothers and sisters who would have financially supported the content that they appreciate. Shout out to y'all for showing that kind of love. Also, I shout out to all the brothers who contributed tonight. We showing the world that we are more sophisticated than the trivial topics that is on YouTube. We can discuss capitalism to environmentalism. So I mean, shout out to the brothers for showing their brilliance tonight and bringing it to the table. And that's really about it, you know. I'll see y'all brothers next week, man. Hopefully y'all live well until then. Okay.
Thank you for that, Buana. That's the show tonight. Let me shout out all of you guys who donated tonight. Amongst them, Ms. Vidya, Bakari, Afro Native World, Erzuli, and KW Dawn 7. Thank all of you for your donations. I'll put it to good use behind the show and the network. Trust me on that. I want to shout out my sister, man. Last Monday, my sister passed away, and that's why I wasn't here last Saturday, because she had been in hospice, and she made a turn for the worse. She transitioned on Monday morning. I want to thank all of you who reached out to me to ask about what was going on, why I wasn't around last week. My sister's name is Erica, so I dedicate this episode to you. I'll see you. Hopefully we'll meet again. You guys check out,
brother. Condolences. I feel you.
Yeah, condolences.
Thanks for that. I'll be back next week. I'll be here next Saturday. Hope you guys are here too. All right. I'll see you guys. Until next time, check out all the other shows on KWAZ Radio. You guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.